All right, so the first speaker for today is Jaime Giné from Amber, who will talk to us about the various stages in the company's life. Please welcome Jaime.
Yeah, I can use this better. Hi, guys. I know why Catalina asked me to talk about these stages in a company's life. We went just through one of those stages. Amber raised external investment money for the first time in its history. 8 years just growing through our own work and just putting back every dollar that we make into the company. And finally, we decided that we were ready to, explode internationally, become a global company. And with the help of Emona Capital, and we have the senior partner here just taking a photograph of me. Hello, Dominic. We've managed to raise up to 20 million and a valuation of 190. So that is a stage on a company's life. And I think that's what we mean by going from high school to college, right? Now it gets serious. Before it was just us. And now we have external stakeholders that we've never had before. But before we got here, it's been 8 years of Amber's history, right? And I was trying to figure out how to talk about these stages, right? And I was thinking about really boring things, building a business plan, convincing a few people to follow you and stuff like that. But it's not, or it wasn't that way for Amber. And I'm not going to pretend that it's the same for everybody else, right? The way that it worked for Amber is two people had an idea, Dragos Hanku and Mihai Pohontu, two very good friends of mine that I've known from since 2006, I guess. Oh God, that's a long time ago. Decided 8 years ago that they wanted to create an independent studio in Romania. They fell in love. Well, they are Romanians, and they knew what kind of talent we had here. And then they decided to go into the first stage of building a company, which is the stage of saying yes. You're going to spend a couple of years saying yes to things, and you're going to be really nervous about it, because at the beginning of a company there is no path. There is the infinite possibilities, right? There is so many things that you can do there. You can decide that you're going to create a game, or you're going to develop your own IP, or you're going to do work for hire, or you're going to do whatever it is. Our ecosystem is huge. But the main thing is you have to say yes, and then you have to, and that's the second stage, you have to fail. Because if you don't fail, you don't learn. And, for us, it was a little bit simpler. We're doing work for hire back then, a few engineers in Bucharest. But for those of you that are indies and that are building a video game, remember that you're not going to get it right the first time. Probably not the second, probably not the third. If you ask Riot, they will tell you it's 58 times that it takes to actually come up with a proper game. So, in spite of this constant failure, you have to keep saying yes. And then you grow, right? And then you start to see what your business has become. And part of it is what you thought it would be. There's a lot of people that spend a year just trying to figure out what the future is going to look like, and have very, very cool spreadsheets and stuff like that. But a lot of it is just reinventing yourself as things work and things don't work, right? And then, but there is that other stage where you have some revenue, you have some employees, maybe there's 30 people, you all know each other really well, you are friends, and you want to go to the next stage. You want to go to that place where you have 200 employees, and instead of one studio with one clear objective, you have two studios, and maybe you're building the third studio, right? And that is another phase of development. That is the phase that I call saying no. Um, you have to, in your trip, find at some point who you are. And much as we wish that that was in our head when we were thinking about the future, that really doesn't happen until the group of people gets together and understands what they care about. And you just saw our video there. That's Amber. The Amber is the people. We have no other currency whatsoever. That's basically what we do. We work with the people. The people work with each other to create video games. So at that point, when you have figured out who you are and what you're gonna do, that's the time where you need to start focusing and say, okay, this is what we're gonna be doing for the next 3 years. And there will be opportunities, and some of those opportunities need to be taken, right? And explore paths and stuff like that. But a lot of the things is saying no. You cannot achieve 10 different things at the same time. Even if you're building a game and you find these 30 incredible features, you have to say no to 15 of them, right? Because you don't have the resources or you don't have the time, or by the time that you get those features done, somebody else will have beaten you to the punch. Or, how many games have we seen in development for 4 years? By the time that they come up, they're completely obsolete because, the tech is obsolete or the creativity is obsolete, right? So focusing on getting things done is that second stage. If you're lucky, like we were, and you're making money, then invest in your company. This is your dream. I mean, of course, you have to pay yourself and you have to pay your employees, so that is money that is going to come out. But any profit that you make, my recommendation to all of us, if we really have a dream, is to invest. Put our money where our mouth is, and that's what we did. There is a third stage, or at least there was a third stage for Amber, which is that time where you say, okay, we've got a great team in Bucharest, 400 people, 3 different studios. We've shipped now 25 games or 30 games for clients, some games of our own also, because we, in Amber, we do about 10% of our effort is to develop our own IP, mostly for learning. Actually, we are not pretending to have commercial successes here. Because the whole paradigm of Amber is really to learn how to build world class teams that are able to deliver the best games in the world. We are doing this, taking risks, saying yes, saying no to a lot, and we're doing it thanks to our clients, right? They are the ones that are putting the money there. They're the ones that are giving us IP and ideas, and we learn a lot from them. And there is nothing that makes you learn as much as, well, failure is the biggest thing, of course, but the second biggest thing is, learning from people that actually know how to do this. For us, that third stage was, we want to go international. We want to do something somewhere else, right? And that is a leap of faith, right? Because when you're building your company here in Bucharest and you're working with, look, the people that are in my leadership team, those 15, 20 people, I've known them for 15 years. I only joined Amber, last year, but I was, I work in EA as Vice President International Development. I had a very big team in Romania. I worked in Keyboard Studios as CCO before. So a lot of these people I actually knew through my career. And that third jump that has to do with going international, I'm sure that other people do this through a lot of science and spreadsheets and stuff like that. What we did is we tried to look for people like us, people that had a dream and that were in an emerging country where, making games was a dream, but when we were little, things that happened to other people in movies in the United States, in the UK, or whatever. And for us, our first big foray was Mexico. We met a team called Curta, but what we really met there was Jorge Suarez. Jorge Suarez is one of us. And you recognize these people pretty immediately, right? They have something in their eyes and they talk about the same shit that you talk, and they're willing to take risks and they're willing to take that jump. And then you think, okay, maybe this will work. And then you know nothing about that country. We knew nothing about Mexico, and you go close your eyes and make that jump, right? And Caraculta joined Amber 2 years and a half ago with 14 people. We have a studio in Mexico with 270 people now. And it worked, but it could have not worked, right? That doesn't mean that you change. You need to continue to look for people that have the same dreams that you have, and just trust them and trust is very difficult. Trust is very easy when you have nothing. Once you have built something and you put a part of our soul there, then trust is a little bit more difficult to give, and you have to work on that. And then, well, next stage is getting some external investment, trying to accelerate your growth, trying to ensure that you have the funds to, go into 6 or 7 other different countries and basically do things that, you know, that you were already doing, but doing it with rocket fuel. Yeah. So through all these phases, there are some things that I think do not change. And I'm not sure how useful this is going to be for you, but it worked for us. It works for Mihai, for me, for Catalin, for Tudor, for the rest of the team in Amber. Number one is work with your friends. You are going to hang out for a long, long time with these people, right? You're going to go through some serious shit that are going to take you down because, there is going to be failures, and you should celebrate the failures the same way that you celebrate the successes. But, do it with your friends. The reason that I came to work in Amber as CEO, coming from Keyword Studios, which is probably here and one of our sponsors, by the way, it wasn't because I thought Amber was going to take down keywords or anything like that. It's just because I wanted to work with my friends. And whenever I wake up every day and I look at the calendar and I see who am I talking to today, I see a bunch of friends, people that I really want to hang out with. If you find yourself in a job where half of the meetings that you have that day are things that you're dreading, people that you really don't want to see, I don't know, find another job, found another company, do whatever it is that you have to do because life is short. I'm older than most of you here, and it goes like this. So do it with your friends. Don't forget the community. That's the other thing that I think never changes in any of the. We had an idea that Amber was going to be a place where we could grow people and that would have an impact in the local communities, right? And we have tried to do that, and I think our support of Dev.Play from like the very first year. I think we've been sponsors for 7 years in a row now. And by the way, thanks to Fortis and to Any Credit that are helping support the indies here. You have to do something for your community. There is an ecosystem that allows the games industry to function, right? And the ecosystem is there is money because there is investors, and those investors are important because doing games is really difficult and really risky. And you're going to fail multiple times, and you need to do that and not die, right? You need to keep feeding your people. You need an education system. You need an infrastructure in the country, in the city, that is friendly to video games, that understand that there is a lot of people that are young that want to do this in the future, and that this is a real business, that they will be able to make a living and they will be able to be happy. But if then they don't have opportunities to study, then they have to go abroad and find other ways to learn, right? And most of us, me myself included, we had to leave our countries to really get a career in video games. For me, that happened a lot earlier than you. I'm Spanish, and I went to London back in 1994 and was able to work on some incredible games that I really like Games of Empire, like Age of Empires. Um, but you have to build that, and these universities, they don't build themselves. These master's degrees don't build themselves. You have to be there. You have to offer opportunities to these graduates. We are doing incredible things in Guadalajara, in Mexico. We created an Unreal training center, right, with a lot of help from Epic, and Intel actually gave us the machines, and the local government said, hey, for every dollar that you put in, we'll put another dollar. We donated all that. That's a non-profit organization, and the kids in Mexico, in Guadalajara, now find themselves with the possibility of actually working on HD AAA products because they know Unreal, right? And that is a step function on the community. It creates something special. So giving back to the community and making sure that you are part of the community is another thing that doesn't change. The third thing that really doesn't change is common sense and learning when to say yes and learning when to say no. When we build a game, it's our baby, and sometimes you have to kill your baby because it just doesn't work. You tried and you iterated 54 times, and it's still not fun. The narrative is great, the concept art is there, but where is that thing that is going to make you press that button? Where is that game mechanic? And you need to recognize that. And I think the only way to do this, or at least the only way for me to do it, is to have a lot of voices in the room. Because if you only have your voice and that is your baby, you're never gonna kill it. You're gonna try and try and try and try, and you just need diversity. You need different people that come from different places. And I did not really discover what diversity was really like until I moved to New York 3 years ago, and realized that the world is a lot bigger and a lot more diverse than I ever thought. So make sure through every single stage of your company's journey that you have diverse voices in the room that are basically making you see things that you didn't see before, because five guys don't know what a woman wants on video games, and you know five guys from Romania or from Spain don't know what the 1.2 billion players that are in Africa are gonna want to be playing over the next 10 years. Because remember, we do have huge amount of players that are gonna come on to our industry over the next 10 years. Africa, which I just mentioned, looks exactly the way that China looked like 15 years ago. And look at China now, right? Sorry, don't look at China now, but you know what I mean. Um, so some things change and some things don't change. What is next after this? Well, we set out on this path to make games where games had not been made before. We wanted to work in emerging countries. We discarded the idea of building big studios in developed countries. And yes, there is a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong. I have a huge amount of respect for what our colleagues in the UK or in the United States or in Canada or in France are doing. But the reality is we want to make dreams come true for people like us. And pretty much most of us come from emerging countries. And to work in video games, you have to be the best of the best of the best. I don't know how many of you are artists here, but that is basically the way that it works. It's very unfair because there's a lot of people that have dreams, but you really need to have the best of the best of the best. And when you come to places like Romania or Ukraine or Poland or Philippines or Taiwan or Mexico, and you are able to find the best of the best, and they are able to bring their heart and their dreams into your company, you're gonna succeed. I promise you that. I don't know what's next for Amber. We want to create game teams that are the best in the world in every genre. And I think we are well on the way to doing that. So if we do achieve that, I'll come back a couple of years from now or three and tell you what comes after college, because I still don't know. So thank you very much for your patience, for listening to me and listening to the story of Amber. I am not sure how am I doing for time, probably very badly. Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to open the room for questions. And please ask me anything. There is nothing that I don't know about Amber specifically, and there is a ton of things that I don't know about the games industry. But I'll try to answer your questions. Any questions? And your name is?
Hi, I'm Milica. I was
Pleased to
wondering,
meet you.
you mentioned diversity, which is, of course, a big thing for me and really important. I was wondering, what are you exactly doing in Amber to attract more diverse talent? Like, what are your, I don't know, strategies to actually make diverse teams?
The very first thing that we're doing, and this is a big deal and nobody talks about this, is to fight against ourselves. When you have a group of 15 guys in a games company, your natural reaction is to hire the 16th guy, right? And why? Because you speak the same language, because you have similar views, because he's going to agree with you. So the very first thing that you need to do is recognize the value of diversity. There is a value in diversity that goes beyond being the right thing. It brings this industry or games industry would not be where it is if we didn't have women gamers, just to give an example that is close to us. The industry that we live in would not be the size that it is and have the success that it has if we hadn't incorporated Asia, both on the development side and on the consumer side. So you have to value diversity in itself because it brings points of view that are different to the ones that you have. I mean, we do some things that go beyond fighting against our natural tendency to hire another male, white, Romanian, or Polish or Spanish guy, right? We have launched a couple of campaigns. I think one of the most interesting ones is, her own game, which I really like, which is trying to inspire and convince the people that are different from the people that you see, well, that you mostly see in this room, that they do have a space in the industry. Second thing that we're doing and that everybody should do is when you do get that person in, you should welcome them. They should be part of a team. They should immediately see that you care about them as much as you care about anybody else in the company. And if they are different, make a space for difference. And if you do that, you achieve not just the hiring target, but actually these people stay and feel that they can be themselves here. Because if you hire somebody that is diverse and then you try to put them in a box that looks exactly the same like the rest of the boxes that you have in the company, you are screwing that person because you're preventing them from being themselves. And second, you're not getting any diversity. You're not getting another point of view. You're just getting another box. So those are the things that we do, right? I am 57 years old. I have three girls, 11, 11, and 13. And TikTok, by the time that they are done with college, this thing needs to be solved. So I am massively, massively motivated to ensure that this changes. And it needs to be done with unfair things like I'm gonna choose the woman because she's a woman. And I know it sounds terrible, but if we don't do that, it's gonna take 100 years. I don't have 100 years. My girls don't have 100 years, right? I'm sorry about talking about women. There is other groups of that, but that's basically what is very, very close to me and what actually made me understand what is the value, right? So be ready to have friends that are very different from you, because you do have to make these people your friends and they need to see you as a friend. It's not just a matter of hiring here or there. I'm hoping that was a complete answer for you. We feel, I feel really strongly about this, and I know that the rest of the company does too.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Come on, a difficult question like why?
Okay, we have one over there.
Where? What is your name?
Thank you. My name is Radu.
Hello, Radu. Very pleased to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you. I have a question. When times are rough, how do you differentiate? How do you make the difference between having to go through the rough times and actually having to kill your baby?
Wow. Wow. I'm just using this as an excuse to think about the answer because that's a really good question. First, I don't think you kill the baby because of rough times. Or you shouldn't, right? You should try to do everything that you can to make sure that the baby survives. If the baby is healthy and has a future, you know what I mean, right? Of course, if you are in rough times and you have a baby that you know you've been keeping alive by CPR and whatever, all these, I'm gonna change metaphors here because this one is becoming too creepy. but but you know what I mean. When you have a project that is in trouble, where you don't find that game mechanic, where you think I've tried 37 times and I think the 38th is gonna be it. Sometimes in the rough times you have to decide that. And frankly, the way that we decide those things is with a lot of people in the room. If you are in a company where one person is making the decisions, even if that person is a genius, it's you, one guy or one woman, right? I have discovered very, very late in life that, and I feel that I am a very intelligent guy, right? But look, any two or three people out there are going to have ideas. If I'm right 70% of the time, what about the other 30%, right? So I think you make those decisions based on what is the health of the baby, as opposed to making them based on the rough times. I think for the rough times, you need to make other decisions that are difficult. You may have to fire some people. You may have to get an external investor that you don't particularly. That is not the case. I love them, and of course, Emona Capital has been very, very helpful to us, and hopefully will be even more helpful in the future. But you have the difficult decisions when the rough time comes are slightly different. It's less about killing your baby. Your baby, if it's a healthy baby, can go on pause, until you gather again the resources and the capability and the passion to move forward. Listen, I was talking before about the stages of a company, right? And I was telling you the things that change and the things that don't change. And it occurred to me that I haven't told you what happens in every phase. Most of the time, when you finish a phase in your company, what worked for you before will not work in the future. So you usually have gotten to where you are by being successful. So if I think about myself back in the 90s, I was a very strong individual contributor, right? I knew how to, I was coding and I was doing project management. I was really, really good, right? And then somebody promoted me over a bunch of project managers, right? And I thought, okay, no worries. These guys, they're very good. They're not as good as me. They didn't get promoted. I got promoted. If they run into trouble, I'm just going to go in there and fix their projects. It almost killed me. It really almost killed me because you cannot do the work of 10. And also, you don't even understand the work that those guys are doing. And you don't know that these people are different people that get to same place in a different way that you got, right? So always remember this. What got you here will not necessarily be what will get you to the next stage. And sometimes you can change yourself. And I've been spent the last 20 years trying to be less of an asshole, less arrogant and stuff like that, with little success. But what but what you can do is you can bring people that are already different, that have other things, and try to figure out what are those things that you're going to need for that next stage. And I'm sorry I took the excuse of your question to give a little bit of a different answer there. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, one more here. Brief answer, please.
I have 4 minutes. Come on, Kata.
Hey, Daniel Nai here from Fortis. So you recently got a pretty good investment. So congrats for that. I'm really
Thank you.
happy to see that happening. In on the Romanian gaming stage. So the question is, what do you plan to do with the money? And more specifically, do you want to develop your original IP, or you keep with the current strategy of the company?
I wanted to buy one of the companies that you bought. Basically, this is as clear as that. But Steve was faster than us, and he had more money than us. So he. Congratulations, by the way. I admire what Fortis is doing. I think you picked a couple of really good studios, and one of them actually, Catalina and I worked with a long time ago, as you know. So what do we want to do with the money? Pretty simple. We try to figure this thing out of what we have done before, and what we have done before, and that's taking us to this stage is organic growth. Just building studios, one guy that we trust, and then that guy hires another two guys, and then we get a couple of engineers, and then we get a CTO. And suddenly, a year later, you have a game team, right, of 15 people. That is the core of whatever IP you're gonna be developing with them. And we felt that there is a faster path to that. That first year is very, very difficult. And the probability of failure is pretty high, and it can be completely outside of your control. It could be that the guy that you chose that you thought was going to be the bomb is the bomb, and he gets sick and cannot work, and suddenly all your investment there is kind of on pause because you really built it based on that guy. So that first year is a very fragile year, when you're building a studio. So we want to do M&A. That is kind of a simple question. 85% of the funds that we raised are going to be directed to increasing our presence internationally. So fundamentally, we want to go into Asia and into South America and Eastern Europe. But there is a war, in the backyard, which makes everything a lot more difficult these days. But we haven't given up on that. We want to go to emerging countries, and we want to save ourselves that first year. So if we find small teams that think the way that we do, that don't think the way that we do, that think differently, but have the same values and the same ultimate objectives, then we are going to see if we can make them an offer and welcome them in the Amber family. The other 15% is, look, Amber has been growing at a pace of 50% combined average growth. We are half as big every year, is what that means. For the last 5 years, that's really, really rapid growth. It means that where we had 300 people in 2019, we have 1,200 people today. When you grow that quickly, there is a lot of things that you need to do. There are systems. You can no longer manage your headcount in a spreadsheet. You can no longer manage your payroll on some sort of Word document, right? Because you are going to fuck it up, and you're gonna miss your payroll day because somebody made a stupid mistake. You need to automate all of this. This is another way of saying that 15% will go into the company to ensure that we have the processes, the systems to be able to manage not just the company that we are today with 1,200 people, but the company that we want to be tomorrow with 2,500 people, right? That's basically it. Bit of advice. You guys were lucky. Do not try to raise money in the middle of a global recession with a war going on. It's really difficult. But we've managed to do it, and let's see what the future holds. And by the way, congratulations on your exit to Fortis. It's a good company. I know Steve from way back. He's XCA, and I think you guys are going places. And thank you very much for being a sponsor here. It means that you're supporting, indie game development, which is the important thing here. 0000 says there. Catalina, I hope I haven't overstayed my welcome. I can answer one last question if it's under 1 minute. No? No? Good.
Okay.
Who do I hand this over to?
You can give it to me.
Where are you?
I'm here.
Oh.
Thank you. Let's.